Okay, I guess we're on. Yay! All right. Put this over here. All right, so anyway, just a minute. I'm actually almost there. Okay. All right, there's everyone. Okay. Wow. Welcome to Sunday Night Live. Yeah, I think it is Sunday Night Live. Yeah. What the heck is this? Oh, I got to leave it there for a while. Anyway, here I am, as usual, completely at the whim of my technology. Jesus. Anyway, so Arikap Tukon, Aloha, Namaste, Namaskar. Welcome to Sunday Night Live, and I got to keep looking back and forth because of the way this is set up. If I told you what I just went through to sit here, I don't think I could explain it. Number one, number two, you just wouldn't believe it. But anyway, I moved to a smaller place, not because it's smaller, but because plus I'm close to my daughter, so it's cool. It's very soon. All right. But anyway, I had there was a lot of comments at the end of the last one. When you guys are writing the comments, I don't really get a chance to read them, and which is really a kind of a bummer because there's some that I would definitely want to talk about. And is it possible to fix this? Is it possible? No. It's not. Well, maybe. Excuse me. All right. There we go. There we go. Yay! You're back. Okay. All right. But I still got this hanging over. There we go. Okay. Fantastic. My gosh. Okay. Well, anyway, there's a lot of comments you guys make during the program that I really would love to focus on, which is why we're going to have different formats real soon. I mean, the only reason we're not launching that right away is because I'm still here in the gulag, and I haven't yet had a chance to go back to where I live. So, yeah. Anyway, so my schedule is very, very, very weird. So anyway, we're going to start, I think, on the 27th. It's going to be the first one, and you'll hear about it. But anyway, what we're going to do, at least one or two of the new what do you call it? One or two of the new programs will be where I just answer questions that you come up, because I've got to answer questions for people that sent them in, but
Anyway, but there's a lot of really good questions. I wish I could find them, but they're on that phone. I took a picture of them, and they're on that phone, which I'm using for TikTok. So anyway, um, so here we are, Sunday night, and I want to just remind you all that this is every Sunday night, like 5 p.m. Uh, Pacific Standard Time, and now that I don't know if we're in daylight savings or whatever we are, normal time. Um, and then of course it's 3 hours later, 8 p.m. in New York, and in Europe it's late, and then in Asia it's early morning Monday. So it's really hard to get those times right. But we're here every Sunday night in America and every Monday morning in Asia. Okay, and Australia. So and we're on all pretty much all of them: Twitter and YouTube, Rumble, my website. You can go there and find and live stream. You can live stream on YouTube and all that, and all of them except X or what do you call it? Twitter is Dr. Thomas Lodi, and the other one that the Twitter the yeah Twitter X is Dr. Thomas Lodi, MD, and we had to do that. I forgot why, but anyway. So all right, good. Facebook, there we're on. We're on. Okay, good. I'm gonna summarize, not summarize. I'm gonna explain, and I hope you'll understand that it applies to everyone. Okay. What I'm gonna do at the beginning is I'm gonna explain, which hopefully is gonna answer a lot of questions. Okay, because there's a lot of questions are, can you help with this particular CFC or that particular CFC, or I'm at this stage with the CFC. So what I want to do is clarify all that because we've been it's like we've been put into a story that is not true. It's like a fairy tale. We're in a fairy tale world, and we've been told the fairy tale uh, um, since we were first born. So since we were born, so it's to us it's real. The problem with it is that we are therefore subject to the rules of this fairy tale, which weren't written by us. As you know, they were written by Rockefeller, and I think his what do you call it? His sponsor. What's his name? Oh, that's right, Satan. And then Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, all those guys. Anyways, they've made this they've turned the world into a story that isn't true, and that's our problem, all of us. Okay, we're in a fairy tale story that just simply isn't true. But the power of words does not allow us to get out of the story. Okay, now I know I sound a little bit weird, but let me explain the power of words. Let's see, do we have people here? Yeah. Okay, we got it. Yeah. All right. So the power of words is this: our minds, are made up of um, words, symbols, understandings, things like that. But basically, words and pictures are the symbols we use, and therefore the words pretty much serve as the scaffolding of our mind, kinds of holds it up. And it's within that scaffolding that we have our reality, because our reality is what we eventually perceive, right? If I perceive, for example, a paranoid schizophrenic who perceives, regardless of what's out there, perceives that everyone's after them and whatever. Well, they might be right, but anyway, let's say they're not. Let's say they're not. So it doesn't matter, does it? What matters is the perception. Okay. Now, and as we talked about last week, I think perception is an individual, unique experience. Okay, It's a result of sensory input, throwing a electrical circuit to somewhere in our brain where that particular sense connects, and then it goes through all of our memories and all of our knowledge about it, and et cetera, and we come out with our individual unique perception. And so when we recall yesterday, what we really recall is a sliver of a moment of a perception about what we thought was happening. And that's why yesterday is to hang on to yesterday. First of all, you're not hanging on to yesterday because you can't. Like, for example, right now at this moment here, what's happening? Do we know? It'd be really hard to define it, right? Because what's happening is happening on so many levels, and it's happening apparently differently for other people, for all of us. And that's one of the reasons we have lawyers, right? He said that. No, she said that. Wait, did I say that? So we have lawyers to help us sort out our impressions of the past. But anyway, words are our scaffolding. So if you speak more than one language, you'll understand that a little bit more clearly. But once you see, like, for example, if I see an Asian person over there, and I can't tell too far to tell if they're Japanese, Korean, or Chinese, I can pretty much tell by their facial structure and the way they're talking what language they're speaking. All right. The same as with European and African and all that. Our language is how we think, and our language is made up of words. And not only the words, but the syntax, how we put them together for concepts and stuff like that. So it's very important to not use the words of a story that's not true. Because as long as you use those words, then you're acknowledging it, and you're allowing it to exist. Which is, for example, I always refer to the great scam of great scam or the great hoax of 2020. I don't call it by anything else. It's what it was. And I certainly don't refer to those injections as what they would like to refer to them as, because they're not. So if I'm not. And am I an anti-vaxxer? No, because if I was an anti-vaxxer, that means there's really a such thing as the other one, which we can't say, but that. So I'm not anti-vaxxer because there are none, ever, never, ever was. Okay, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of the scam, of this fairy tale. So anyway, I want to remind you something. And this is all important. I know you all have important questions, and I'm going to get to them, I promise. I just want to kind of clear our thinking. So Louis Pasteur and Beauchamp and people in those, we're talking about the mid 1800s, late 1800s. There was an argument: are there germs or not? What's a germ? Because the word germ is a kind of pejorative. It sounds like it's a germ sounds like nobody wants germs, but they're microorganisms, okay? And the idea is that microorganisms are causing a problem in your body, and therefore you've got to get rid of them. And so Louis Pasteur, the most vocal proponent of that, said he said that he had shown that something is an infectious agent. So because there was another guy at that time, his name was Koch, and Koch, and he made a series of postulates. He says, if you're going to prove this is an infectious agent, we'd get somebody who's sick, and you take out some substance that they're secreting, whether their nose or mouth, whatever, or if they got pox, you take out a piece of it. You give it to another person. Well, first of all, you put it in a dish, you grow it out, and you find the organism, and then you take that organism and you put it into the person, and they should get the same condition. And then once they have the same condition, or what you think is, then you take out the sample from them and you grow it. And if they were the same, you can say, indeed, this is the infectious agent. That's never happened ever. with anything except parasites. So, I mean, parasites are real, but the other stuff, as I told you, and I'll say it again, the father of pathology, which I don't use that word pathology because pathology means something went wrong with the body. The body is doing something wrong. It's the pathophysiology, meaning it's doing the wrong, it's somehow doing it wrong. But you have to remember. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. So remember, the body is incapable of doing anything wrong. It's not capable. It can only do that which is necessary. All of nature functions under the law of necessity, and and things happen the only way they could have happened. How do I know that? Because that's how they happen. And how do I know that what didn't happen was not necessary? Because it didn't happen. I mean, by definition, if you can grab what I'm saying, you understand what I'm saying. So anyway, so this Pasteur came with he was, I think, a front man for whoever wanted to sell us this story, that there's these germs and they're going to get us. Well, anyway, the father, Rudolf Virchow, wrote the first book on pathology, and he said if he had his life to do over again, he would spend it proving that the microorganisms are there to clean up the mess, but they didn't cause it. And as Lorraine Day, very well-known trauma surgeon at UCSF, and she developed breast CFCs, and she, of course, cut off. And then afterwards, it became stage 4, and all that. It was really terrible. And she said, "No, I'm not going to do this." And she just changed her lifestyle, and it's gone. She died, I think, just this year, age 88. Not from CFCs. Anyway, so the way she put it was, the flies don't make the poop. The flies don't make the poop. And by the way, I've never seen fruit flies, have you? Unless there was fruit. So what are they doing when there's no fruit? Are they just like waiting? Are they hibernating? No. Because you can be on the 55th floor of a condominium and you bought some fruit and you go away for the weekend, you come back and there are fruit flies. And you know these fruit flies don't know how to press the elevator button. Anyway, so that being said, I want you to understand that they changed it into the disease theory, or the disease model, which I specifically learned the disease model. In fact, I think when I was in psychology, they talked about it, right? So even psychology uses the disease model. And every discipline does in the Western world. Traditional healing disciplines do not use it. They see there's imbalances, and they have different names for it, and they seek to restore balance. That's all. And the balance and that imbalance has come about because of a multitude of potential reasons. All right. Now, so as I use it all the time because I think it's a great analogy, metaphor, whatever. Is that I'm eating bread, pasta, potato, rice, cake, blah blah blah. I have too much glucose. My body becomes insulin resistant, just like a knee jerk. You hit your patellar tendon, it goes up. Okay, so the knee jerk of the body is to protect it, to maintain its functional integrity. So it becomes insulin resistant because it knows insulin lets glucose in, and too much glucose will kill it. That's it. So it's an adaptive response. It's an adaptive physiological response, period. And so you don't want to get rid of it. You want to make sure it's no longer necessary. Because if you're supplying the body with what it needs, which is not too much glucose, then it won't do that adaptive dance. It'll do what it was designed to do, and that is to function optimally. We are designed to function optimally. And as soon as something happens that's not occurring, our body's going to keep us alive anyway. It's called homeostasis. And not just us, all biological creatures, right? All right, so please understand that. can we reverse the effects on the body from high anxiety and negative rumination? If so, how? Okay, good question. Very good point. So um, these okay. So this system of the disease model is, I mean, even naturopaths, even osteopaths, even chiropractors, even nutritionists, nurse practitioners, physical therapists. The whole Western system is based on a model that doesn't exist. There are no diseases. There are no things out there that are going to get us, except parasites. Um, uh, but, but everyone, and I've gone over this many times. If you're just joining for the first time, please understand that every one of what we call a disease is an adaptive physiological response. It's adaptive physiology. So instead of using the word pathology as if the body made some sort of mistake, we're not going to say it's not pathology, it's adaptive physiology. The body's adapting according to the laws of its physiology, which were established by God. And I know people have a problem with the word God. I wish we had a different word, but I think everyone has their impression of what God is. But let's at least agree that God is the fundamental essence of everything. And God is pure intelligence. Why intelligence? Because what is the product of intelligence? Order, systems, order. And you look at the universe, whether with a telescope or a microscope, and you're going to see nothing but extreme, unfathomable order. Okay, there's no chaos. And for those of you that are into science, and you know that something called Brownian motion is supposed to be the motion, the chaotic motion of molecules in a container or something like that, or in our body. To us it appears random. I mean it doesn't appear random. To me, it appears that it's doing whatever it's doing because it needs to be. And as it turns out, Brownian motion, which maintains the shape, the shape and function of whatever substance it is just the movement of the molecules. In fact, they're probably they are moving exactly the way they need to move, and that if one were had a little bit closer to divine intelligence, they would understand that incredible motion is ordered. Because you know that when you think about the body with 36 septillion chemical reactions every second, 21 zeros, and then you realize each one of them is mediated by an enzyme, and that enzyme is doing what it does, whatever it does, whether it puts a carboxyl group on something, or it puts a kinase, or decarboxylates, or it whatever. Let's say it turns, like catalase, it turns hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen. Why would it do that? Because hydrogen peroxide is a common biochemical intermediate in normal physiology. So once it turns into peroxide, that's going to still be oxidative and can harm. And so we have an enzyme called catalase, which converts it into water and oxygen. How frequently, how quick? A little over 1 million. It does that to over 1 million molecules per second. And then we have others 900,000 times per second, another one 3 million times per second. So that they have to be doing that if we're doing 36 septillion chemical reactions every second. Anyway, the point is this. It's so beyond our ability to comprehend it that and it's so and look at it, whatever anyone wants to say about it, it works. Look, here I am, like actually in one piece talking, and I've got 100 trillion cells or whatever, 60 to 100 trillion cells, and they're all working together somehow, and inside of each cell it's extremely complex, and it all works. So what are you going to say? Anyway, But so here's the point: the body will always adapt, and that's called homeostasis, right? And so I want to get to one other issue here too. So just understand that whatever our body is doing, it's adapting, and it's necessary. All right. So there are no third parties out there that get into you. You don't get hypertension. The blood pressure increases for a physiologic to maintain physiology. It's not something wrong. What's wrong is the way we live our lives. It's not that it's wrong. It's just that it's not satisfying our biological requirements, and therefore our body does what it does to maintain blood flow to all the organs and all that stuff. And in this case, arteries are plugged up because I'm eating greasy dog food, and so my body's got to maintain the flow, so it increases the pressure. It's not a good long-term solution, but it's the only one possible at that time. Okay, so anyway, there's no diseases, there's no germs, there's no germs. We're microorganisms. There's more microorganisms on the earth than there are all of the stars and galaxies that we've ever been able to see. I think we've identified about 100 billion galaxies, and we know that like the galaxies have what? Like our galaxy, medium size, has about 200 billion stars. So you look at it, and there's more microorganisms. They're everywhere. So, but anyway, they are kind of the intelligence, the context in which all other creatures have their life. They maintain the carbon and sulfur, and they maintain they make amino acids for us. They take nitrogen out of the air and they put it onto a carboxylic acid. The plant becomes an amino acid. We turn that into proteins. Everything that happens because our internal milieu requires them. Our immune system requires them. Not only us, dogs, same thing. We've got them all over our bodies and all that. So and they'll do what's necessary to make sure these big guys, us, can live. So they're the context in which we have our biological life, and that's kind of an important thing to understand. There's no germs. Okay, germs. And by the way, even though I find myself doing it sometime, but I stop myself, you guys got to remember, don't use the word dirt. It's earth. Because dirt is, again, pejorative. Oh, you're dirty. No. You're earthy. You got some earth on you. Okay, remember that. Remember, that's really important because we are earthlings. And by the way, every one of us, when the holy breath of God leaves us, this body turns back to earth. So we are earthlings. So, these bodies are earth suit. Right. And I like to call it an earth suit because you really need one of these to get around on this planet. Very helpful. So anyway, and so if you use their words, and they use it commonly, like as if, NED. I hate that. First of all, it's an acronym. You don't have to use acronyms. Say what you're trying to say. And then no evidence of disease. Well, there never was. There's no disease. There might be something growing. There might be this. There might be that. But there might be some chronically fermenting cells. But what's the disease? What do you mean no evidence of disease? Disease implies something's wrong, something happened. But there's not. Remember, everything is happening to adapt and to flow together. Okay, you got to not use their words. If you don't use their words, you're not in their paradigm. And if you're not in their paradigm and you're in the real paradigm, then believe me, the fear's gone. Why is the fear gone? Because I'll tell you something. What you were last year and what you are this year is not the same, and what you'll be next year. Why is that? Because you're making and recycling 37 million cells per second. And you're engaging in 36 septillion chemical reactions every second. So I would say we're a pretty dynamic process. We're not a thing. Okay, so and you're not born with anything except you're born with the DNA, and as I've said many times, please remember this. Don't think there's a gene for CFCs. CFCs, by the way, for the people first Joining us, CFCs are chronically fermenting cells, which is really what the Rockefellers would have us believe is what's going on. For example, you have a breast mass or a pancreatic mass. They call it that zodiac. You know that you're familiar with the zodiac sign, right? Between Gemini and Leo, it's called Cancer. Well, we don't have zodiac signs inside of our bodies, um, so don't use that word. And plus, that word hurts. It hurts to say. It hurts. It hurts to hear. Hurt is mild. It cripples. It destroys. And I said it. Tell you guys again. You don't only have PTSD, you have CTSD, current traumatic stress syndrome. Because why? Because you're believing there, and I'm not putting anyone down. You're believing and going along with their story. Don't. It's not real. And I'm going to spend my life trying to get people to understand that everything they told us is not real. I mean, nothing they told us is real. Sound better. And I'm not like, it's not hyperbole. It's real. It's true. And I'll go through it over and over with you again. Now, anyway, so I have my VPN off. Oh, I'm going to turn it off. Oh, yeah. So, again, yeah, Twitter at Dr. Thomas Lodi MD, and the rest, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, are all at Dr. Thomas Lodi. And then, of course, you go to my website, drlodi.com, and you can find it there. All right. And then everything is recorded, so you can watch it again. You can watch it tomorrow, and you can see it on everything. All of those social medias that we mentioned, except TikTok, they don't save. Okay. And remember, the other thing is important. If you currently have CFCs and you're having a problem, it is a problem. I have a clinic in Arizona, which I'm currently at. Okay, we've been around 19 years, and we've got, just call us, come, right? I mean, and then you'll get an appointment. They'll schedule an appointment um, to have a consultation with me. And even if I'm not there, I will uh, be involved every week with the doctors that are there to make and revise the plan, because plans are really it's kind of like a potential guideline for what's going to happen, because no one knows the future. No. By the way, aren't you glad that the future is veiled from us? Glad that the future is veiled from us. Paul should tell us our future. Believe me, know your future. What if you knew the day you would die? What a bummer. I wouldn't want to know that. What if you knew that you're going to marry this person, but you're going to get divorced and blah, blah? You wouldn't do it. So the future is fortunately withheld from us. So don't worry about it. Because it's not the events that we're talking about. It's not that, oh, I got married and I got divorced. It's a bad, bad thing. No, no, no. The important thing is the process that you and whoever your partner was, that you went through, and what came out of it. Did children come out of it, and all that? Did you what have we learned? It's all about that. Okay, so I know you don't want to hear this. I know you want to hear other stuff too, but anyway. So one question over there was, well, how can we protect ourselves from all the stress and the madness and everything? Well, listen, I'm completely affected by it as well, right? Because it pretty much I have to use every emotion about what's happening. I have anger, I have fear, I have sadness, I have disbelief, cognitive dissonance. I have, all of that. And because what's happening is beyond my, it's beyond, I can't really, it doesn't fit in my head. What's happening. You all know what I'm talking about, right? What's really happening in this planet right now, what we're about to undergo, and all that stuff. So, how do you deal with it? Here's the thing. The only thing that's real is right now. And yes, okay, a tornado's coming. It's good to know that so you can prepare or get it out. And that's how I look at what's going on. So you make your appropriate preparations to go somewhere or to do something. And other than that, you realize too, this is another thing, and it's hard for some people to assimilate. But God, everything that exists, including Satan, including whatever, is allowed to exist because it was sanctioned by God. In other words, and remember the law of necessity. So for some reason it's necessary. So why would Satan be necessary? Because as you know, you don't have a front without a back. You don't know up if you don't have it down, and you don't know good if you don't have evil. So anyway, and you know what? We can complain about it and debate about it and all that sort of thing, but it still is. It's the way it is, and that's one thing. Understand that what is, and you can't change what is. So then, knowing that, like I know, what is that? What is that poem? God grant me the serenity. No, God grant me the wisdom. Well, grant me the what? Anybody know that one? Grant me something to know what to do. Grant me the. Anyway, it's a great little. I don't know if it's a poem or what. I think it was. I think preach it. Okay, I'm preaching it. Um, I think it came out of the NA and AA. They used it a lot. Programs. Um, Grammys, whatever the wisdom, the intelligence, the ability to know the things that I can do, and understand the things that I can't do, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? And so, in when the wisdom to know the serenity prayer, right? And the wisdom to know the difference means that. So what is within that? What is within our power? Think about it. What is within our power? Well, if you really, really, really think about it, you're going to come up with the conclusion that Solomon said. You all remember Solomon. Anyway, he said, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. And it's not fear, it's the acknowledgement of omniscience and omnipotence, and that this is God's show, and you're not going to change it. The day you're going to die is already known, and that you're going to make a left-hand turn on next Thursday at the light is already known. It's hard to swallow. We don't like it. It doesn't matter if we like it or not. It's the way it is. I may not like the fact that it's raining, and I can get angry and cry and everything. Here's the thing. To answer that question really more precisely, I want you to imagine that your family gets together every year, and at one of the relatives' house, and you get together, and all the families come in your big family, your big extended family, and they bring the kids and all that stuff. So and for a picnic, you have this one day family celebration picnic, right? So every year it's at a different place. So this year it's at your place, and you've got the adults are sleeping wherever they're sleeping. The children are usually sleeping in one or two rooms, and they're all together, giggling and having fun and all that. And so we've got our plans. We've got all the food. Everyone's brought their food. We've got to put out storage. We're ready to go, early in the morning. We're going to have this fantastic family picnic. And then about 4 a.m., 5 a.m., a storm starts. And it's pouring rain. And all of the adults wake up and they go, "Oh my God, whoa, wow, what are we gonna do?" And they go, "I guess we better tell the children." So you go in the room and the children aren't there. You go, "Where are they?" And you look around and you see them outside dancing in the rain. Dancing in the rain. Children don't have shoulds, but we sure give them. We really give them shoulds, don't we? And remember what children are, the babies. They just dropped out of heaven. And guess what? They don't have any words yet, which is why they know everything. As you learn words, you limit your knowledge. Just think about that if you don't understand it. Anyway, that's how we get through it. We live for the moment. And I really need to hear that as much as everybody else, because I really get stuck on this nonsense about what's going on with Klaus Schwab and his buddies. Anyway, very strange, right? That cancer's hitting the royal family in England. How's that happening? Anyway. So here's what I want to talk about before we do anything. I got a question on Instagram. I think somebody was saying, "Do you know anything about this? Is this true?" And there was a second person that told me about it. And the study says, well, at least they got one thing right. At least they're starting to call it like it is. It really made me. I don't know how I can say it. I didn't like hearing the people use the word intermittent fasting for eating once or twice a day, because that's not fasting. A fast is 24 hours without any nourishment. You still have water. What do I think of dry fasting? I have the greatest respect for Muhammad, but I don't understand. That's the one thing I don't understand about the dry fasting for Muslims. The fasting, Ramadan, fantastic. But dry, you see, because we're 70% water. Every reaction, chemical reaction that goes on in our body requires water. If you get below a certain amount, you're in trouble. But anyway, if you're not taking in nourishment, that's actually good, because when you're not eating, your body's cleaning. But all the cleaning pathways, the detoxification pathways and all that, require water. So if you start to get dry, it doesn't make sense. You won't be able to function. So I'm not sure why it is, unless there's a spiritual meaning that you're abstaining from everything. I'm not sure. I don't understand. But in terms of health, I wouldn't recommend it. And so you need water. You're drinking water. So 24 hours without food, that's a fast. Intermittent fasting would be, well, I don't eat every fifth day, or I fast 1 week a month, or whatever, or I fast on Sundays. Intermittent fasting, which, by the way, brings us to this, and I want you to know that at least they're using the word restricted eating, right? Yeah, time restricted eating. Good, because you can't say intermittent fasting. Well, so I eat breakfast and I fast until lunch, and then I fast until dinner, and then I fast till breakfast. Is that intermittent fasting? No. So anyway, but time restricted eating plan. Okay, so here's what they say. Chicago, March 18th, 2024. An analysis of over 20,000 U.S. adults found that people who limited their eating across less than 8 hours per day, a time restricted plan, were more likely to die from cardiovascular disease compared to people who ate across 12 to 16 hours per day, according to the preliminary research presented at the American Heart Association's Epidemiology and Prevention, Lifestyle and Cardiometabolic Scientific Sessions 2024. Okay, I'm going to go through it a little bit with you, but I want to just tell you at the outset that, and you have to hear this, you have to understand that I want you to start learning that what you know is real. Okay? And if you feel one way, and somebody's telling you you don't feel that way, what are you going to say? Oh, okay. No, you're going to say, what do you mean I don't feel that way? Like I'm sad. Come on, you're not sad. Or you don't have to be sad. Or you shouldn't be sad. Okay, but I'm sad. Or whatever it is, or I'm happy. Well, if you know something, and you do know this is not true, it can't possibly be true. It can't. Now, these, no, undoubtedly, these are the same people that it brought, are like our friend David there, who's telling me that kale is no longer a superfood. So I guess, I don't know what happened. Maybe you think like God like changed kale so when we weren't looking, changed it. I don't think so. Kale's still a superfood. It's fantastic. So is its cousin and brothers, broccoli and cauliflower, etc. Okay. And then I saw this other guy on the internet the other day holding up. I guess he's got a lot of followers. Why? I don't know what's attracted, because he's stupid and he's arrogant about it. He's holding up a piece of broccoli and says, "This is bad for you." Anyway, I will comment on that particular video. I'm gonna make one using his. That's tough. Anyway, okay. So the people that want us to think that we shouldn't eat vegetables, but we should eat laboratory grown animal flesh, and we should or just eat like a dog. And now not only do we eat like a dog, we should eat at least 3 times a day. And then well, for the best, you should be eating every couple hours. That's what they tell some people, because they're hypoglycemic. By the way, if you think you have hypoglycemia, let me just tell you something about that word. That is part of the word, part of the phrase. The phrase is reactive hypoglycemia. Reactive means your body's it's becoming hypoglycemic because what? Because it was hyperglycemic. In other words, if you don't go up, you're not going to come down. Okay? So hypoglycemia. So if you're afraid, oh, if I fast, I can't fast, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? You won't go up, but you won't come down. It's reactive hypoglycemia. Anyway. So, I've fasted people for a long time, and I've fasted myself, and I've read all the masters of fasting who had fasting farms, and they fasted maybe hundreds of thousands of people over decades. So I'm very familiar with it. And I'm also very familiar with how the body works and what it needs. So I have no idea. I'm going to read this when it comes out. I tried to find it, but apparently it was research presented at the American Heart. I couldn't find it. But anyway, I found people talking about it. And they say the study of over 20,000 adults found that those who had people with heart disease or cancer also had an increased risk of cardiovascular death, compared with a standard scheduling eating of, Okay, so I want you to understand what they did. This was surveys. Surveys, meaning they're asking people all these different questions. So this new truth that's going to shatter everything we were doing is based on the surveys of 20,000 adults about what they were eating or something like that. I got to read it. Okay, so it comes from these guys, these research, this thing that's just published says that they reviewed information about dietary patterns for participants in the annual 2003-2018 National Health and Nutrition Examination Surveys, in comparison to data about people who died in the U.S. from those years, according to the CDC's, who always tell the truth. But anyway, according to the CDC, Center for Disease Control's Prevention National Death Index database. So they took some surveys and they compared it to the death index, and that's what they came up with. Well, they also told us, you remember a few years ago, and some people still don't know, that soy was bad. Soy is bad for you. And you say, well, wait a minute. The Japanese eat it all day. And they, except for 1 year, were the longest lived. They lived 10 years longer than the average 1 year it was South Korea. South Korea and Japan are very, very similar in food and clothing and all that. They have some distinct differences, but grammar of their language is the same. A lot of the same words, a lot of the same foods, but they have many more kimchis and stuff like that. But they eat pretty healthy. All right, so obviously that meant soy wasn't bad. It means that what we got something wrong. And we eventually found out, oh, it's something, because they're saying it's a phytoestrogen, and estrogen's bad. You know that estrogen's bad. No, I don't know that, because without estrogen, you wouldn't be here, dude. And neither would your children be here. So tell me it's bad? Well, I mean, I'm talking about the bad estrogen. Oh, there's good and there's bad estrogens? Yeah, okay. Again, remember, please, everybody remember, there's no morality in nature. It's not moral or ethical. It is the way it has to be. Okay? The wolf eating a rabbit is neither good nor bad. It's necessary. When it comes to us personally and these things happen, we get offended. But understand that all the hormones in our body, estrogen, testosterone, prolactin, progesterone, thyroid, luteinizing hormone, are all necessary. Are all necessary. And they all work together, and it's a certain harmony, a certain resonance. So when that harmony or resonance is disturbed and there are imbalances, you see adaptive responses. And then we come up with the conclusion that it's bad. It's always it, not us. It's it is bad. Okay. So yeah, soy has phytoestrogens, and those bind to, we now know they're estrogen receptor alpha and beta. We know the alpha is going to make things grow. If something stimulates it, the beta is going to make things shrink. Well, guess what soy does? That's right. Gets the beta, just like estriol. And it sits very lightly on the alpha. It doesn't do much, but it's making it grow a little bit, but the beta is so much stronger that it overpowers it, and the net effect is beta. But because it's sitting on the alpha, it's blocking it better than tamoxifen. So anyway, but that these are guys. So they tell us that soy's bad. What else they tell us? Broccoli's bad. Kale's bad. Eating all day is good, and eating dog food is good. So I have no idea why they did this. The other thing is too. Remember this is not they didn't do a study. They looked a study. They didn't do a research project. What they did was these guys looked at they reviewed the findings by a group for over a certain number of years, and based on those findings, which were the result of surveys. How have you ever answered a survey? I can't do it, but let's say you did. I don't know. Is it going to be the absolute truth? Is it going to be, are you going to really understand what they're meaning by it? Maybe what you put down is the answer. Anyway, it's far from being accurate. But based on that, and then they looked at the death for those years, and they said, I don't know how they did it. Okay, so what I want to show you here. So an eating duration of more than 16 hours per day was associated with a lower risk of cancer mortality among people with cancer. So you eat for more than 16 hours a day. My God, if you're sleeping 8 hours, that means, you got to pretty much be eating all the time. Now, I talk about the opposite because the opposite is the truth. As it turns out, and I'll show you some studies, but as it turns out, if you lower your caloric intake, you increase your lifespan. Who is that true for? Every creature we've studied. From insects, fish, reptiles, amphibian, and mammals. Yeah. Why? Because eating is even if you're eating the diet for which you were designed, like animals in the wild would do, it still has to be processed, and that in that processing is wear and tear. Just that. Plus, you might get something in the food that was a problem, poison, has to be gotten rid of. And while the body is busy eating, look, so you eat something now, you take a bite, you chew it, you swallow it, it's going to go in your stomach. It'll be there it depends on how much you eat, but it'll be there maybe an hour, whatever, about that time. And then it starts to slowly go into your small intestines. And that's a long ride. That's about 25 feet or something. It goes through all that, it gets digested, absorbed, and then absorbed in the jejunum. And then it gets to the colon. Now it's got 6 hours of absorbing water and allowing all the bacteria and all that to do their thing. And the bacteria are turning the soluble fibers into short chain fatty acids and stuff. So after 6 hours, you should then eliminate that which you ate. Okay, so you have all this stuff going on. Now suppose I eat breakfast and I chew it, and then it's by lunchtime it's in my maybe my jejunum, maybe, and it's starting to be absorbed. So now I start this end here. I'm eating again lunch. So now, and I got this, and I still haven't gotten rid of what's from yesterday. So down here, it's going, so I've got the whole thing going. And then I feed it again. I keep feeding it again. And what am I doing? I'm exhausting my body. I'm exhausting my gastrointestinal tract's ability to. It's not going to even be efficient. It won't be efficient. You can overuse something, and we overeat. We overuse our gastrointestinal effect function. Right? That's why for the first time in history, we have achieved something that has never been achieved, well, at least in known history. And that is we are now overfed and undernourished. At one time that was thought of as impossible, because at one time people actually ate the food for which they were designed. No. There were cavemen. We've been eating this for a long time. I see. Because why? Well, we found the bones in the cave. Okay. So aren't you? You know that vegetables don't have bones, right? You're aware of that? Also, by the way, where did they find those caves? Why were they in a cave? Because they were living in an area that was freezing. And that's not what they were designed for. They were designed to live in the tropics and the subtropics, where there'd be plenty and an abundant fruit and vegetables, and nuts and seeds. But no, they're living in the cold, and the only thing they eat is an animal. So if I have a choice, there's nothing to eat, I have to eat this animal, I'd say, wait. I guess I'm going to leave and go to a place where I don't have to eat the animal. Because I have a feeling that that if I were to go to like a farmyard, and I gathered all the animals together, and I explained to them that I'm hungry, and I said, listen, which one of you volunteer? And I got this funny feeling that I wouldn't see any paws or hooves raised. So therefore, if I wanted to eat them, what do I have to do? Well, it's called murder. So I murder them, and then I eat that. And then I still can't eat them. I don't like them like that. I mean, I don't like fresh corpses. So, what am I going to do? I guess I'll put it on the fire, on the grill, and I'll put all this on. I'm going to call it a burger. Or I'm going to put it in the oven and call it a meatloaf. Or I'm going to call it beef stew. I'm certainly not going to call it a dead animal because, well, I'm too civilized. Anyway. So this time, so here's what I'd say. So not only do we have that literature on fasting, the less you eat, the longer you live. In fact, I wish I could remember the details of this, but it's a very interesting phenomenon that happened. Where was it? There was a town in north, like way up there, like I think in Scandinavia somewhere. Was it? Maybe it was, yeah. And anyway, there was a period where like no crops came in and they had very little to eat. That generation had very little to eat. Well, as it turned out, they lived longer than the previous generations. And you know what? It actually changed the epigenetics, not the genetics, the epigenetics, and it carried over the next generation. That a similar thing happened to Europe and Americans in World War One, the first in a series of three, brought to you by yours truly, the Rothschilds. Yeah, they're really good at that. They put a lot of those productions on. But people were relatively starving. And guess what? They had so much. That generation didn't eat that much. They couldn't eat as much as normal. They were rationed, even though they're eating whatever they're eating. They lived longer and they had more. They had less diseases. Anyway, but they've tested it on animals. So here we go. Look at this one. The effects of time. This is in January 2021. Journal of Translational Medicine. The effects of time-restricted feeding on weight loss, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular risk in obese women. Anyway, if you don't know what metabolic syndrome is, it's basically it's a series of events that result from the underlying glucose insulin. You're eating too much glucose in one way or another. Potatoes are glucose. You're getting too much sweets, too much carbs, and that disturbs your insulin and your deposit. It winds up disturbing everything, and you wind up with high blood pressure. You wind up with cardiac problems and liver problems and all that. They used to call it metabolic syndrome X. I love it. X. That's a great name. Anyway, so they found out that time restricted. Are they calling fasting? What are they called? Tira was effective in reducing weight, the BMI, and body fat and waist circumference from baseline to change. Can you imagine? But it did not change the biomarkers involved with metabolic syndrome F. And it promoted a reduction in cardiovascular risk. Now, one thing I want to mention to you, I think it was only a 3-month study. So in a 3-month study, you're not going to see all of the metabolic. You're not going to change your body, but within 3 months of just eating less of the same junk, you're not going to change your metabolic markers. It takes a while to do that. But you did get a lot of these things. You got better in a lot of ways. Now that was the study. Another one. Here's a time-restricted feeding and risk of metabolic disease. A review of humans and animals. So they did that, right? And they concluded. By the way, on these time-restricted diets, you know what they have people doing? Eating the same amount of food they would eat if they ate 3 times a day, but just trying to squeeze it into a small time. Anyway, so this study here, this was in May of 2014. These results from these studies show that TRF, time-restricted fast, to be associated with reductions in body weight, total cholesterol, and concentrations of triglycerides, glucose, insulin, interleukin-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha, as well as with improvements of insulin sensitivity. So how could that be bad for you? They made me put a puzzle together again. TikTok does weird things. Anyway, okay, so if you had a reduction you had lost weight, lower cholesterol concentrations, lower triglycerides, lower glucose, lower insulin, and lower interleukin-6, and lower tumor necrosis factor alpha. Why is that important? Because IL-6, interleukin-6, is the inflammatory thing, and so this chronic inflammation was less. That can't possibly be bad for you. That can't possibly increase your risk for that. You understand? So I mean, even though I'm going to read that thing when it comes out, but I'm just saying this thing can't. It's not. This. Okay. Here's another one. This was October 2016. Effects of 8 weeks. 8 weeks. At least the other ones were restricted feeding on basal metabolism, maximal strength, body composites, inflammation, cardio, and they did this in resistance-trained males. So these were guys, young guys, and did all that. Even so, you got young guys, and they did it. What did they do? Oh, they ate in an 8-hour period, and they didn't eat for 16 hours, which is really not hard, you guys. Anyway, our results suggest that an intermittent fasting program in which all the calories are consumed in 8-hour window each day, in conjunction with resistance training, could improve some of the health-related biomarkers, decrease fat, and maintain muscle mass. So, I mean, again, how can that be true? So please, trust yourselves. Trust me. Because I don't just say things. I try to show you that I don't just make it. Do you know how much time I'd have to spend if I made this stuff up, trying to imagine it? I spend all my time trying to uncover the truth. And then impact of intermittent fasting on health and disease process. Again, same thing. What they find, this is important. They did this on rats. The profound beneficial effects on many different indices of health, and importantly, can counteract disease processes and improve function outcomes on experimental models of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancers, and neurological disorders such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Here's one: fasting and cancer, molecular mechanisms and clinical application. This is in November of 2018. And basically, and of course, it's Walter Longo. He's the one that kind of made fasting legal. I almost got my license taken away for recommending fasting. Anyway, what he found was the vulnerability of cancer cells to nutrient deprivation and their dependency on specific metabolites are emerging hallmarks of cancer. Fasting or fasting mimicking diets lead to wide alterations in growth factors and in metabolic levels, generating environments that can reduce the capability of cancer cells to adapt and survive, and thus improve the effects of cancer therapies. And then in addition, it's actually helpful for the healthy cells. So he proved this. And that's why people now fast just before and during chemo and stuff like that. Now, you cannot do a fasting mimicking diet. That is a misunderstanding, because what they're doing is they're just basing that on the fact that if you eat a high fat diet and you're on ketones, that's similar to fasting. Well, it's not at all. It's eating a high fat diet, and you're still eating, you're still processing, you're still not producing the cytokines and stuff that you would heal from fasting. But anyway, it's not. But that's what they call it, a fasting mimicking. So this one here was pretty interesting. They took they found out that the fasting mimicking diet, which at least with the fasting mimicking diet, it means you decrease carbs, so you got more fat, and you're eating fat generating foods. But they found with that the and they were talking about breast CFCs because they have related to hormones. They said that it enhances the activity of the endocrine therapeutics by lowering circulating IGF-1, insulin, and leptin, by inhibiting AKT-mTOR signaling via upregulation of EGR1 and PTEN, which is a tumor suppressor gene. What? I mean, it's really good. And there's a great article in 2022. It's called "Fasting and Cancer: From Yeast to Mammals." It's just the way it is. Okay. And then here, I love this one. Synergistic effect of fasting mimicking diet and vitamin C against KRAS mutated cancers. KRAS mutated. Anyway, a lot of CFCs that begin in the colon have what they call KRAS. And what happens in KRAS is all CFCs, wherever you have them, they upregulate on the cell the GLUT1 receptor. But apparently the KRAS upregulates it a lot more. But this is true for all CFCs. But the point of this is is that if the GLUT1 receptor is elevated and you're not eating sweets, then when that the vitamin C you eat, the ascorbate gets to the site of tumor bed quickly oxidizes it and turns it in, because trying to get rid of it, turns it into dehydroascorbate, DHA, which fits right on that GLUT1 and it gets sucked up into the cell. And what does the CFC have to do? It has to quickly reduce it. So it turns it back into ascorbate. And in doing that, it's using up its antioxidant enzymes. So you keep a steady flow, you sip 7 to 7, you keep a steady flow, and you're keeping the CFCs vulnerable because they don't have many antioxidants enzymes. So they're using all they can. Anyway, I'm not going to keep going into those. Fasting mimicking diet blocks triple negative breast cancer and cancer stem cell escape. What? I thought there was no way you could help people with triple negative. Wrong. And triple negative just means, it's just a word they made up. I have had people triple positive, triple negative, with ER positive, HER2 positive, or ER positive and nothing positive, or HER2 and only. It has nothing to do with what they call it. I don't care what they call it, because biology is biology is biology is biology. So you don't have to worry about that. You will and can get better. Don't buy their names. You don't have stage of anything. There's no stages. I've got to help you with that word. You got to understand there's no such thing as a stage. Why do I say that? Because when you have let's say you have some chronically fermenting cells starting to happen here. And then as they're happening, they're just maybe 1 million cells or so, a little microscopic. They travel. And they move down the lymphatics and they move down the vessels. They settle here and they settle there. But the main one, it's kind of like when a woman has her ovulation every month, all these eggs are like competing. And finally one wins. Sometimes 2 comes out and then you get twins. But anyway, so the tumor that makes it, that's getting a little bit bigger, needs it to grow, so it's stimulating, it's producing stuff that will stimulate VEGF, a vascular endothelial growth factor, which means more blood vessels, because it can't grow a millimeter without a blood vessel. So it's doing that, and it sends out to all the other little islands, macroscopic islands, an inhibitory. They can't grow blood vessels, and if they can't grow blood vessels, they can't grow. So, but you go to one of the witches or warlocks in the House of Horrors, and they first of all, they do the biopsy, which does what? It takes off that inhibition. Now they've been given a green light to grow. Ever since I had the biopsy, I had you already had them, but the biopsy. But you got to know what it is. Okay, how come? Well, you got to know what type it is. Oh, how many types are there? And if they try to explain it to you, you say, oh, you mean where it starts, the location. I mean, if it starts in one of those cells in the skin that make melanin, then we'll call it a melanoma. There you go. It's a good one. If it starts in the breast, in the duct of the breast, we'll call it ductal carcinoma. Anyway, there are no different types. There's only one type. Anyway, what I wanted to say here is they found out that if that eating less is helpful for triple negative, and it prevents stem cell escape, so they can go somewhere else and make a new colony. Nutrient restriction and radiation therapy, when less is more. And so what they did was they restricted their total intake of calories by 20 to 40 cents, has been shown to increase longevity across multiple species. I'm going to repeat that. Caloric restriction, or a diet modification aiming to reduce the total intake of calories by 20 to 40%, has been shown to increase longevity across multiple species. Anyway, because an increase in body of literature demonstrated metabolic blah, 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 blah. The role of I'll end with this. The role of the Japanese traditional diet in healthy and sustainable dietary patterns around the world. So what they found is the Japanese traditional diet called washoku, which is characterized by high consumption of fish and soybean products with low consumption of animal fat and meat, relies on the effective use of umami taste to enhance palatability. Palatability. There may be a link between washoku and the longevity of the people in Japan. Thus, washoku diet and umami may be valuable tools to support healthy eating. Okay, now, first of all, the Japanese lived only 10 years longer. That's not a big deal. It's better, but that's not a big deal. So it's not that their diet was perfect, but it was better than ours. Okay, and so they mentioned no meat, which I think they mean mammals. I don't think they mean reptiles, but lots of fish. But they didn't eat that much. But anyways, fish and soybean products. They didn't mention the fact that they also get a lot of seaweed. They didn't mention the fact that they also get green. They drink green tea. They didn't mention the fact that they eat very small meals. They never get stuffed. Well, now it's different. We poison them, but and they didn't mention all that. It's not just that. And even with all that, it's only 10 years, but they didn't get the same conditions we have. The point is, we could easily live to 200, even in today's poisoned world, if we had a chance. So let's go to the questions, you guys, because it's, what time is it? Whoa, 6:30. We got time. Okay. Are you still there? Is everybody still there? Are you guys, did you leave yet? No, we still have a few people. Cool. Where was my questions? Okay. Nah, that's not it. Go away. There it is. Okay. Yay. Okay. Questions. All right. This is from Marley, and she says, "Hi, please clarify what you said last week. You said we could just take 12.5 milligrams of the iodoral instead of working up to a higher dose like 25, but it would just take longer. So do we still need to take the synthetic thyroid even with that low dose? Thank you." All right. Well, remember, anybody who's new here, you must understand that the thyroid gland produces thyroid for one purpose, and that is the delivery of iodide to all the cells, and then it depolarizes the mitochondrial membrane, meaning the mitochondria will make energy. So the energy metabolism, the amount of energy a cell has, is based largely on, well, multiple things, but one is by the thyroid sending the iodine to get the show going. So, and that includes your immune cells, your heart cells, your brain cells, your colon cells. Every cell in your body needs it. Okay. So therefore, we want to make sure that that's working. Okay. So we do that, and we realize that we don't eat Japanese diets, so we don't get enough iodine, and so most of our thyroid is got other things besides iodine on it, like bromide, fluoride, chloride. So anyway, we got to take iodine to kind of change things around. And now remember, how much thyroid do you take? And you don't take synthetic. You take the natural, or if you're taking synthetic, if you want to, but you can take the natural from Thyrovance, or you can take Armor, or any of those. So what you do is, while you're taking the iodine, which the higher the dose is, it could suppress thyroid output. So, and we always check with basal body temperatures. Remember, yes, we know the lab values are inaccurate. So so how do you know how much thyroid medicine you need? You do your basal body temperatures, and if the average of 5 days in a row in the morning before you get out of bed to go to the bathroom is less than 97.8 Fahrenheit or 36.8 Celsius, then you are hypothyroid. You need more, period. So if I double, let's say instead of taking 12.5 milligrams of iodine, I take 25, or what if I took 50? then as I checked, I might find that I might eventually have to go up to higher doses of the thyroid medicine to keep my temperature there at the right place. And as long as my heartbeat's not, I'm not beating too fast, I'm not getting any signs of being hyper, then I do that for as long as is necessary. And soon, it takes about a year and a half, 2 years, your body finally has enough iodine, so it now can make its own, and you can now start to decrease it because now it will have the iodine it needs, and you would decrease it down to a maintenance dose of 12.5, and yeah, oh, low battery. Okay, so let's switch this guy to this guy. Listen, when I moved here, right, to this apartment, this hotel from the other hotel, I was really concerned because I actually had no problem setting up my computer and stuff. And that's not really something I wanted to become good at or familiar with. Anyway, so to answer your question is it's not based on the amount of iodine. What it's based on is the iodine is doing one thing. It's replenishing your deficit. While you're replenishing your deficit, which has resulted in you having low thyroid function, then you need to be taking thyroid. So keep that in mind. Okay, here's another question by Kristen. She says, my dad is in, quote, remission, unquote, right, from myeloma. The cure was worse than the disease. Yeah, there was. Okay. Remember, no disease, no cure. You're right. You mean what they did to him was far worse than what he had. Yeah. He has recently been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and my sister and I are desperately trying to figure out a solution and get him off the poisonous pharmaceuticals. What is the first step? Okay, wait, if he was recently diagnosed, so what did they started him already on Parkinsonian drugs? Well, first of all, what happens with Parkinson's is there's an area of the brain called the substantia nigra, and what just means dark substance. They can't say that. We call it substantia nigra, right? We don't want to say, well, it's this dark area in the brain. Anyway, it's most likely due to pesticides and other environmental toxins that accumulate. And what they do is they destroy or inhibit completely the ability of the substantia nigra, that part of the brain, to produce glutathione. And it needs glutathione, like all cells do, to clean up whatever comes in, to neutralize it. So it doesn't have it, so free radicals accumulate, and that part of the brain is not getting it. What I used to do in New York, because I had actually quite a few people with Parkinson's, is I'd give them IV intravenous glutathione. And without their medication, they walk in, I have them come in, and they're like, even this is advanced. I mean, people that were shuffling, and because if they diagnose, I don't know how they diagnose. It's real clinical. The face gets stiff. There's a tremor at rest. They have a shuffling gait. If they're mad or happy, they're not. You can't tell because they don't have their faces. Anyway, all that goes away when you give IV of glutathione. It's like it doesn't last that long. So what we finally wound up doing was having a compounding pharmacy make glutathione suppositories. So they could have to do more frequently, but it helped at home. But the other thing is to remember this is what they're calling Parkinson's. There's no Parkinson's. This part of the brain got poisoned. So what do we have to do? We have to do the same thing we do with everybody who's got any problem at all with their health, but especially like with CFCs. If you have a problem with that, or you have this, number one is we got to clean out all the potential toxins. And this is what I was talking about, referring to at the beginning of this live, was that I want to give you all something to think about in general. I mean, just to understand. I don't care what stage you have of whatever. Okay. Use your knowledge to send to many famous doctors around the world so that they can. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to teach people. I mean, I'm teaching people that I can, doctors that I can. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm, um, so anyway, so what do? You first of all, if you understand that having CFCs is because it's an adaptive response because you lost a certain amount, a certain number, a certain percentage of the mitochondria, the little organelles in the cell that make energy with oxygen and glucose. You lost them because you're damaged. So the thing is, and then your cell had to adapt, had to start fermenting, and that's what we call a CFC. So the first thing we want to do is eliminate all potential sources of those toxins. And we do that. We look in the mouth. We go with the biological dentist. We do the 3D cone beam CT. We make sure if there's any problem, we fix it because there are hidden cavitations and there's all kinds of stuff going on that affect us. And by the way, 80% at least of what they call we call it body systemic conditions, what they call diseases, are related to the mouth. I don't know how but yeah, it's that big a deal. Well, you know that there's a certain if you have a certain kind of bacteria, specific bacteria in the mouth, because you have gum inflammation, it can cause what they call myocardial infarctions, heart attacks. There's another one specifically that will cause colon CFCs. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Plus, there's dysbiosis, etc. So that's the first thing you do, whatever you have. You clean out, you do the mouth, get that going. You learn proper oral hygiene. While you're doing that, it's a good time to do is you start a green juice cleanse, and you drink nothing but organic, fresh vegetables, but you make it taste good. And if you got to put an extra apple, so use celery, cucumber, kale, spinach, or you can change for bok choy or whatever, or add. You can add, doesn't matter. Add what you want, and then put a couple apples. Put a red one if you have to make it taste sweet enough, because it's better that you drink it than you don't. Remember, a little glucose is not going to hurt, because you know what? Glucose is so important to your body that even at the end of a 41-day fast on water, and we check your blood glucose, it's normal. Why is it normal? Because your body's making it out of something else. Same with the glutamine, which is supposed to be the other fuel, which is the other fuel for CFCs. We need that big time. So we're going to make it. You can't restrict it. You can't restrict it. So anyway, you clean. You do a 3-week, 4-week, 5-week, 8-week, as long as you can juice cleanse because you're getting very well nourished. And at the same time, you're getting lymphatic work. You're getting colon hydrotherapy twice a week. And you're cleaning out all the toxins. You're doing chelation to get rid of heavy metals. And you should be reading at that time about healing and health and how fantastic the body is. And don't read about all their stories. Because our journey is not journey to become military and kill something that's happening in our body. Our journey is back to a land called health. That's our journey. And when we arrive, not only do we not have CFCs, we don't have arthritis or diabetes, or we don't have any of those ridiculous words that they made up about adaptive physiology. Okay? So the goal is health. And by the way, is health important? Well, you can't be a good mom. You can't be a good daughter. You can't be a good son. You can't be a good father. You can't be a good employee. You can't be a good friend if you're not healthy. And even if you have money, you can't enjoy whatever you think you would enjoy with money. And the thing about health is you cannot buy it. You cannot negotiate it. You cannot demand it. You must earn it. And there's only one way, and that's by living healthy. So if your journey is health and not getting rid of something, just remember, whatever it is you think you got to get rid of, whether it's Parkinson's, arthritis, or CFCs, or whatever, those are only one manifestation of toxicity. Right? I mean, what if you got rid of your CFCs and you had crippling arthritis? What if you got rid of your CFCs and you had Parkinson's? I mean, you don't want to just eliminate one Dr. Lodi, can you tell us about pedophile? Do you have any experience or know any? Wow. No, I don't know any. I mean, I know I see them all the time. They're on TV. Usually, they're working in government or they upper echelons of government, upper echelons of I mean, church. What about having all the priests? What about all the guys in Hollywood and all of that? So yeah, what can I tell you about them? I don't know. What I can't figure out is in order to get famous now, from what I understand, you've got to buy into that, which is very strange. That's actually selling your soul, because I can't imagine it. So I don't know. All I can tell you is that the we should be pedophiles in the sense that we should love children and we should guard them and nourish them and take care of them and not abuse them. They're innocent. They have no even they haven't they're innocent and they deserve everything. They don't deserve anything other than love and good habits. That's the other thing. Give your child love, because the degree to which you love your child is how when you are loving a child, that becomes the child's self-image. Your love, you thinking that this baby is the most incredible being on earth, handsome or beautiful and smart, and you love him and no matter what, that is how that baby grows up to see themselves. And it's that self-image that gives them the confidence to walk out the door and be whatever they can. The second thing you give your child is health, since it is the treasure of all treasures. And how do you give them health? Well, God already did. What you give them, what you do is don't give them bad habits. Don't give them habits they will have to break. Feed them real food for the first 7 years, and you've done it. You gave them health. Their go-to food will now be healthy. Their emotional eating will be healthy. Those are the two things you give them. Anyway, what I wanted to tell you though, so you clean out all that, get it fixed. It takes a while, colonics and all that. While you're doing that, if you have CFCs, you're gonna do different therapies that put these CFCs in a position that they can't manage because they don't have the enzymes. Healthy cells do. We call it metabolic therapies. And the third thing we want to do is wake up the immune system. That's all. But that's what you do. No matter what you have, wherever, you got to begin cleaning out. Same with Parkinson's. So it's Parkinson's, since it's most likely environmental toxins and stuff, you can take fulvic and humic acid. Those are very good, and do lots of saunas, infrared saunas, and you do colonics, do cleansing. We got a lot to clean out, because it's way up in the brain. And you got to go on a juice cleanse for a good period of time. Colonics twice a week, lymphatics, all that sort of stuff. And then keep them moving. You get them moving. Every hour they're up and they're doing something that gets them out of breath for 10 minutes. At least, that's minimum. And then you take them for long walks and stuff like that. You keep them active. You put them, they make sure they go to bed early. Okay. Now, the one guy that I respected very much when I was working with people with more of the general population than just CFCs, there's a guy named David Perlmutter. I don't know if you heard of him. He's a well-known neurologist. He was in Florida at the time, and he wrote a book called, I think it was Grain Brain. So he thinks for Parkinson's, everyone has to get off grains and what was the other thing he wanted? Oh, and sugar. And sugar. The grains cooked anyway become sugar as well. So it said, Dr. David. Now I knew him before he was famous. Dr. David Perlmutter claims eating food high in carbohydrates causes brain inflammation and can trigger neurological disorders like anxiety, depression, and ADHD. All right. Anyway, okay. Dr. David Perlmutter is really good, and he's got some brain food. He puts stuff together. He's got a lot of things for the neurotransmitters and stuff like that. So you can get that. You can get that. You got to get glutathione. You got to get someone who works it. But your father doesn't have to have that. And by the way, he doesn't have Parkinson's. He's got this problem in the substantia nigra where he's not. Don't use their words, please. Don't use their words, and don't have him take any drugs. The sooner you start the drugs, the sooner they're going to not work. Call David Perlmutter. See if he's got anybody that he's trained in your area. All right, let's go. Got more questions here, you guys. I've talked too much today. Okay, this is from Anne. Could you speak about how to heal RSD and CPRS? I have had it since shattering my wrist about 11 years ago. Ah, yes. Yes. I first ran into that as a resident in New York, but it's really extremely terrible. But the RZ is reflex sympathetic dystrophy is what they call it, and the other ones that you called it was complex regional pain syndromes, CRPS. And basically, there are two types. One is there's really no known cause, and type 2 there was a cause like trauma or surgery or something like that. And but the result is that the extremities, hands or legs or feet or something, they hurt so badly. They burn. They even get warmer. They get warmer, and they were like more like if you had it in one hand, the other hand would be cooler than that hand. And even the hair doesn't grow the same. It's really so. There's an underlying thing. They claim they don't know what it is, and if you don't know what something is, you don't know how to fix it. You don't know how to help rebalance it so that it will no longer need to be happening. Well, as you know, first of all, it's got a burning pain. It's got changes in the growth. It's got changes in feel. It's warmer. So what that's telling me is two things. Number one, the warmer and all that stuff and things like that is the autonomic nervous system. So somehow during that trauma that you got, the autonomic nervous system, because the autonomic nervous system is why we sweat, why we, it's all that stuff. And if you can restore, because the autonomic nervous system also it controls the what they call the microcirculation, which are little arterioles that lead to the capillaries, and then the venules to pick them up. But those capillaries are where things go diffuse across into our cells. And so the thing is, if that's if in that area your microcirculation is off, in other words, the microcirculation changes, like it'll open up to give more blood when necessary, close down when it's not necessary. It's kind of doing that, right? So obviously in this situation it's out of balance. It's out of balance. It's doing it at the wrong time. I think it got hit by during the trauma. Somehow that affected. I think a big part of it is that. And the other part is the peripheral nervous system because of the severe pain and the burning. So I think the nerves got really hypersensitive. I don't know exactly on a microscopic histological perspective, but I know that's what it is, and the pain is excruciating, and I've seen it. And so they say, well, since they say, and there is no cure for it. Well, it's really the same thing. If you do all the things we said about cleansing and all that sort of thing, change the metals, it's the same for everything. Please listen. Please understand. Make sure you don't have any root canals or extracted teeth or anything, and cavitations, and make sure your gum health is good. And you got to do all that. And then you got to do a cleanse, and you got to do colonics. You do all that stuff. And then you can, because what happens, complication of having this long time, because it burns and all that, you stop moving it, and then it becomes atrophied, right? And then you can have real problems. You don't want that. So you want to keep it active, and the only way you can keep it active is by getting it better. We got to restore flow, restore. So that means there's something called the beamer. I don't know if you know of it, but the beamer is a mat that will open up the microcirculation, which is kind of good. It helps things heal. But other than that, again, same thing. That cleansing is seriously important. The other one is you might want to go to somebody who is trained in myofascial release, structural integration, and/or craniosacral, because a lot of stuff is structural and it needs to be. And especially you had that, if you got that trauma, you said from a wrist, you shattered your wrist. In there, the fascia that was involved, fascia connects things. The fascia that was involved is probably holding it in there. So if you had a myofascial release, emotion might come out, but you need that structural work. You need to cleanse and do all that stuff and eat healthy. You have to. You can't think it's only for CFCs. There's a lot of things you can do, but that's where to start. But look for craniosacral or a cranial osteopath, an osteopath who specializes in the cranium, or structural integration, or myofascial release. Very, very important. Very important. What? How come it got so big? Assignment. I'm just real quickly reading this by John, and he gives me a story here. So he's eating healthy, or he's saying, besides all that stuff, right? Eating healthy, and I'm taking 12 milligrams of ivermectin and fenben, waiting for MRI for diagnosis, and then to decide whether to accept biopsy or not. Listen, I got to tell you something. They're going to recommend biopsy. Yeah. They have to. They have to get, why did it get so dark? They have to get what's called a tissue diagnosis. Otherwise, they have to get a description of the tissue, otherwise they don't qualify for diagnosis. They can't put you on their algorithm, and they'll freak out. They're going to do it. So there's no decision. Whatever you have going on in there, you can look at it and see, oh, okay, yeah, it's CFCs. You don't have to biopsy it. Well, if we don't biopsy it, we don't know how to treat it. Yeah, you do. It's the same thing. They claim, well, we give this chemo for that. No, it doesn't matter, because what was originally FDA approved for this particular CFC is now okay for this CFC and this CFC and this CFC. Oh, okay, so now we use them for all. It's all the same. It's just poison. The whole idea is getting the poison in there. But I don't know if you need poison. I don't know your whole story, so I would really like to talk to you. But there's no reason for biopsy. Biopsy will spread it if it's a CFC. Anyway, please keep that in mind. It's very important. Now, where was the next question? Here we go. Is this it? Yeah. Okay, hi. Where is it? Okay, so with the RSD CPRS, you got to do all those same things. I should try. There's no lights in this place. It's ridiculous. There's like a light in the kitchen. It's really dark in here. There's like a lamp over there and a lamp over there. Sorry, it's so dark. Maybe I can plug this in. Let me see. How does that turn on? Whoa, that's too much. That's too much. But anyway, I guess it's okay. It's too much. How do people? Does it? Can't you adjust it? That's like, is it just either on or off? Um, I don't know. Wow. Oh, let me go check something. No, I'm sorry. I can't. I thought I had something else, but anyway, let's just stick with that. It's crazy. I'm sorry it was getting so dark, but anyway. Uh, so this is from Tamara. This is a general question for all diseases we've been injected with. Do you recommend daily maintenance protocol after the main cleanse? I believe all autoimmune are the same, just different names. Well, agreed. If you've been injected with something, there are many protocols out there for people who study that. There's some great ones. What's his name? David Martin, and there's some other really good ones. I don't really look at that because it's beyond me, because I'm focused on what I'm focused on. But for some people, like I told you, they're seeing synthetic biology. Some people are seeing mRNA and spike protein, and some don't. And so it's but yeah, absolutely cleansing, nattokinase. Yeah, I don't know. Avoid a Wi-Fi. Get a Faraday clothing. Get Faraday. You can buy Faraday clothing. Faraday thing to put around your like like a bed around you. Things like that. But I don't know that much about. But I would say you've got to. Yeah, the protocol is the same. Remember, that which is required to be restored to health, the same is required to maintain health. If you want to maintain health, so how do you maintain health? By doing what you did to get there, right? It's like if you quit smoking cigarettes, you don't start after you're healthy. You know what I mean? So you keep doing it. And that means you're going to still do periodic fasting. So 4 times a year, you're going to take 10 to 14 days and do cleansing. You're going to do colonics, maybe, I would once a week for the first year if you can. Why not? I did for many years. Um, Go get a vitamin C IV, like if you can, once a week after you're done. It's vitamin C will neutralize so many things. So and eat healthy. Eat within a forget those people. Eat within I say 6 hour window. You only eat 6 hours. And by the way, did you guys ever see? Look it up if you didn't see it. Go online. Put vegan strongman 1 meal a day. This guy's going to come up. This guy has been doing it for at least 20 years now. And he looks, what do you see this guy? One meal a day. Look at him. So basically, I'm saying after you do the main cleanse, keep doing the fasting 4 times a year, and then eat healthy, a 6-hour window. Maybe fast 1 day a week. Take nattokinase if you were injected yet. I wanted to ask you about Parasite Protocol. First, I wanted to say thank you for everything you do. My pleasure. Do you believe we need to start Parasite Protocol during the full moon? And what is your view on taking binders and doing salt baths and enemas while you're doing the Parasite Protocol? And do you recommend starting one of the medications to see how you react? These are all really good questions, Mary. And the full moon is for some of them. They just bloom at the full moon, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter because the protozoa won't do that. It's no, you can start anytime because remember you're going to do 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. So you're here and there you're going to get a full moon. So I wouldn't worry about that. As far as doing other cleansing while you're doing that, absolutely take binders. If you use humic and fulvic, it's not going to like take out if you're taking other supplements, it's not going to take them out. So, but salt baths, yeah, enemas, of course, colonics, enemas, yeah. What time is it? Oh my God, it's 7. I'm sorry. Okay, so all I'm going to say is that, do I recommend? Now, that's a good question because at first I said everybody take it all, but I've been seeing a couple people lately. Well, like one person has an allergy and we don't know what it is, so we had to stop them all and then we're starting one, and it turned out not to be it anyway. But yeah, I mean, because you want to get up, you don't just do it. You could do that. You could do one for 1 week or 3 days. You're doing fine. Okay, add the second one. Okay, right, and work up to it. Make sure you're okay with it. Figure out how you're going to do it, and then do the 3 on 1 off, 3 on 1 off. Okay, because you got to be doing them all at once because these guys keep coming back. Exactly, Trina. World pandemic of parasite. Why don't they care? They don't care because they're not human. They don't care because they have no heart. When I look into the eyes, I remember that I was looking at the eyes of a reporter asked one of the Rothschilds, the guy that just died. Um, he had that look. He had a smile. He's saying, "Is it true that the Rothschilds have ruled the world for?" And he gave a smile. And his smile said, "Yeah." And his mouth said, "Of course not. Of course." Anyway, we're not dealing with humans, and I'm sorry I didn't get to so many. I think I just talked too much tonight about stuff. I hope I didn't disappoint everybody. But listen, thank you for coming. And I didn't realize it was so late. And you guys got to go to sleep. Some of you, anyway. Sawadee ka, aloha, namaste. See you next time. Hopefully, I'll have this thing figured out, how to do this next time. Bye-bye. And where do we go here? We go